Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Che.
This is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, it's like if instead of joining forces to fight Nazi Superman, Billy Butcher and Soldier Boy joined forces to speak really eloquently about comic books. Is that fair, Cory?
You know, it makes sense because we're both assholes, so it kind of does work, honestly.
Which one of us is Billy Butcher, though, is the real question. Because I don't want to be Billy Butcher. I guess I don't want to be Soldier Boy either.
I honestly think
These are
you
two
are.
awful people.
Two bad people, but you just lifted a bottle of whiskey to your face. So, I mean, a glass of whiskey to your face.
Don't say
so.
bottle.
Not bottle. I
The
apologize.
audio listeners are going to think I'm an alcoholic.
If you guys we're also on YouTube now. If you guys haven't actually gotten a chance to listen to and watch our actual recordings. Last couple of weeks have been technical difficulties for me because I have not had my camera set up, but I'm now once again in glorious HD.
Yes, we're back. We're back in action. We should be getting these episodes out more regularly now, so that's all good stuff. If you are not following the podcast, of course, please follow us. You can listen to us pretty much everywhere you get podcasts. You can also find all of our archived podcasts, all of our writing, all that good stuff at nexttimeon.net. As Cory already said, but I will double plug it again. Go check out the YouTube. The link is in the description. If you're watching the YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can follow us at Twitter and Instagram at nexttimeonpod. I've started posting more stuff on Instagram because it makes me less mad than Twitter. Also, I think Twitter might not exist in like a couple weeks when Elon Musk doesn't buy it and it like collapses into the ground. It's gonna be really funny.
Honestly, that's awesome. I think I think this is what we should do.
It's like a situation that's made a man who I hate and an app that I hate both look really bad and are really bad for each other. So it's just great news for everybody.
I gotta say, I feel like it would be very awesome if we could just do like a full-on reset. Like we just
go back to 2005 before there was any
them.
social media, all that stuff.
Stop any of them. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's just do a big old hard reset.
That would be great. It's like when Facebook, I guess now Meta, threatened Europe. They were like, with the new privacy laws, they were like, we're actually going to stop having Facebook in Europe. And Europe collectively went, oh, okay, you do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Nobody likes you.
It's honestly pretty sick, honestly.
Yeah,
Leave us the fuck alone.
Fuck off. Speaking of future episodes, we will have next episode is our book club Monsters by Barry Windsor Smith. So if you have not started reading that already, get ready for that. And our Curse of the Rewatch for I think July, maybe early August, we'll figure out when we're dropping that, is going to be Ghost Rider by Mark Steven Johnson, starring the one and only Nicolas Cage. And Cory cannot blame me for this one because
that's me.
This is all
I was recently in Austin, Texas, and the reason I picked Ghost Rider is because I had to walk for 5 minutes in that hellscape of a city, and so it was just like on my brain, honestly. I don't want to discount Austin. I had a great time. I'm just saying, holy fuck, how the fuck do people live there in fucking July? It's July and August.
When they built Austin, Texas, we weren't in the midst of the end of the earth. So
that's very true.
It was probably more livable.
It has gotten worse in the last 10 years. It was like somebody I saw, unfortunately, a tweet that was saying basically like, oh, like it wasn't as hot when we were kids. And it's like, no, it literally was not.
No. All right. Before we get too down the rabbit hole of the end of the earth, shall we do the elevator pitch, Cory?
Sure.
All right. I'm going to put a minute on the clock. I'm making you go first. I'm not even going to ask you this time. And whenever you're ready, you can start.
Okay. So I would love to actually go down the entire creators list for this comic, but it's the Image comic crossover. It's written by Donny Cates and art by Jeff Shaw. What it basically is, it's a love letter to event comic books, where Donny Cates kind of takes us on this long journey where you can't, obviously it's from Image Comics, so you can't use all the DC and Marvel brands, but there's a lot of great illusion. But it's a story where what happens if a comic book crossover, Secret Wars, Infinity Crisis, like basically crashed into our universe. And it follows this girl on a journey as she tries to get back into where they crash into Denver, creating a giant bubble where people cannot get in, but the comic book characters can get out, blah, blah, blah. But the story follows this girl as she tries to go in and find her parents in this comic book world. What it basically becomes, though, is a meta commentary on comic books, event books, while telling a very clearly personal and well-done story. I cannot recommend it enough. I kind of put it off for a long time because I figured that I wouldn't get some of the comic book references, but I don't care that I went over. This is me wrapping my thoughts up.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I don't care.
I
This,
think
this, the time limit was originally created because the plan was letting people behind the curtain. I was like, so our Twitter videos have to be 2 minutes and 20 seconds is the time limit. So if we each do a minute, we can cut together our elevator pitch, and that's like a great teaser for the episode. And then I realized we like talk way more than like 20 seconds in between.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible to cut them to that length anyway. Plus now that we have video, I just like grab a clip from somewhere in the video where we're being super fucking hilarious and charismatic, and I use that as the clip. So yeah, I don't care if you go over. Yeah, I really like crossover too. I'm a bit behind. Cory's caught up recently. I think I'll have to catch up so we can talk about it a bit. I think it's a really interesting idea for a book for sure.
I did I like to go back. I like to go read the authors like afterwards after they finish volumes and the writers. And one of my favorite bits about this was and the problem with it is the book gets so meta that I can't remember if this actually was the afterword or was it actually said in it. Mm-hmm. But he basically was like, I didn't intend to go in this direction with this, even though I'm enjoying it. He's like, this wasn't my intentional journey from the get-go. And I gotta say, I recommend picking up the volumes covers for this. The first one, actually, probably would be fine picking up single issues, but the second one has a really, really good beginning with Chip Zdarsky, and one of the parts of it, one of the parts of the story where the story is supposed to take place in our real world. Somebody is going out to kill comic book writers, and the first part of the story is Chip Zdarsky trying to avoid his death while also teaming up with his fictionalized created version of himself.
Yeah, it's a batshit book.
It's insane.
And I think you mentioned that, so because it's not in the DC universe or Marvel universe, you don't get to use a bunch of like recognizable characters. I actually think the fact that they're like made up IP. I think that's the best part of the book, is that you can sort of be as wild and crazy as you want. I think this book would be really fun in the DC and Marvel universe. You had this we sort of got that with like Gwenpool a little bit, where any character could show up in a Gwenpool issue and do anything, and that book sort of had carte blanche to do whatever it wanted. But even Gwenpool never got as like out there as crossover did it sometimes. And that's the Donny Cates. And
I think in a sense, and I think a great thing about it is whenever they do give us a comic book character a lot of them aren't Marvel and DC characters. So I mean, they'll basically say like, yeah, I wrote Batman, but they can't show Batman. But
I'm surprised they can even say Batman is the.
Me too, but I guess since it's like not really parody, I guess if it's taking place in the real world, I suppose. And I figured that DC wouldn't want to necessarily get that much on the bad side of writers and stuff if they mention that,
It's also like what's the
point? But it's like in cool ways. So I mean, like one of my favorite comic books, one of the things that kind of got me into comics was the Madman comics by Mike Allred. Mm-hmm. And it's not much of a spoiler because I don't think a lot of people who listen to this podcast would know that comic. Highly recommend it, but he definitely pops up very early on, which I didn't expect to happen. And I think that was my point of saying, oh, I like this book now.
Yeah.
And I think the ride's gotten only better. Great references to like the book's powers. It's a lot of references to a lot of like lesser known books.
Have you ever done a Powers book club? I can't remember.
I read Powers when I first got into comics. I have not gone back and read it again. So that's well over 10 years ago.
I'm sort of like terrified to revisit Bendis.
See, but I think that's the thing about Bendis is when he was good in original and you're not overset. It's like he flanderized himself, basically. It's like watching Quentin Tarantino films and seeing like noticing all the feet now. When he's doing the Bendis talk. I mean, hell, even crossover makes fun of the Bendis talk.
Yeah, but at least Tarantino still makes like I find it.
I know.
Almost impossible to believe that there is a man who both made a book that I liked as much as I liked Powers when I read it, and also is responsible for Pearl. Like, I just don't know how that can be the case.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
But I cannot recommend Crossover enough. I actually don't think I've actually talked about a book this much in my opening pitch in a long time. But Shay,
it's a good one. Yeah, we were talking about before this how much we both like basically all of Donny Cates stuff. And I don't really think about him as like an author who I'm really like into, but I kind of have never read anything of his that I don't love. You said there's some Marvel and DC stuff you've read of his that you don't really like, but I
don't love. But I mean, for the most part though, it's like I don't think I have a general bad time with him. I think he did that. It was I don't remember the exact run of what it would be, but if you guys see the Thanos run under his name, I think there's 2 volumes. It's a pretty short run. It is batshit insane in the best way possible. It is so fucking much fun. I cannot recommend that book enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, do your pitch. We got a lot to talk about today.
All right, minute on the clock. I'm going. So the thing I'm talking about today, surprise, surprise, is a TV show. And surprise, surprise, it's on FX, which I think other than HBO, and maybe you could make an argument, including HBO, has some of the highest batting averages of television. This is the new show from Christopher Storer, who this is his first time being the primary show creator, but did some executive producing and was as far as I can tell from all the credits and everything, was a big voice on Rami, another show I really liked, and worked on Dickinson, which is a show I don't really understand why it exists. But basically the concept of the show is a guy comes home, Carmi comes home to his family's sandwich shop business after his brother commits suicide, and has to like piece together his life and this failing business and this cast of like very eclectic characters that work in it, including his incredibly insane, not cousin, they call him cousin, but he's a family friend. It's fantastic. It's all the episodes dropped at the end of June on FX. You got to go watch it if you haven't watched it before.
I've been seeing commercials for it, but I had no idea what the show actually was about.
I think it's always a safe bet. If FX is like putting their weight behind a show's advertising budget, you can probably be assured that it's good. I mean, FX, I don't know when the last time FX dropped a thing that wasn't good, so there's that.
I'm not trying to say this as an insult, and I mean this in the best way possible, but when I see an FX show, I know exactly what it's going to look like. And I'm not saying it as an insult because it has worked for them over the last 10 years, and I always enjoy them. But I was going to kind of I'm basically saying like they have a very good brand. And
do you think their stuff looks really similar?
A lot of them do. It's very like this looks the same as this sounds really shitty. It looks very similar to You're the Worst, which kind of can sometimes
it's not similar. I love You're the Worst. This is not,
but like saying like the whole like it has a very like similar like kind of look to them. I feel like I don't want to lump them together. They have a good look to them when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like this show.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if it's the cinematography or the way they're pitched or whatever. They do always feel very real, and I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I think this is like this year has been a very interesting year for FX because they started out. I would say I enjoy Under the Banner of Heaven. It's interesting to say the least. I don't know if it ended up being that great, but I don't know if that's because of the show or because it's not like Mormon crime is not interesting. And I think we've all conned ourselves into thinking true crime is like a very interesting genre. I feel the same about The Staircase, a show that people really love and I think is not good. But they also did Pistol this year, which I think is their biggest flop in a while. I don't know anybody who watched Pistol. I didn't even watch Pistol, and I watch everything, mostly because I don't care about the Sex Pistols at all. So there's that. But not that long ago, they did Devs, Mrs. America, A Teacher, and Why the Last Man, like kind of back to back to back. Not to mention Reservation Dogs if we're talking comedy. Like their stuff is just so good. And I mean, we've talked about Devs ad nauseum on this podcast. It is one of my favorite shows of the last 5 years. Might be my favorite show of the last 5 years. And The Bear is like absolutely nothing like Devs, but in the same way, like sort of lives in the same space in my head rent free. There's just some stuff that show is doing, especially Jeremy Allen White, who I think most people will know from the American version of Shameless, is delivering a performance like I didn't think he was capable of. That sounds like
Wow, I have not thought about this.
But
Yeah, I haven't thought about this guy in a long time.
he's absolutely incredible in the main role, and it's like it's a role that you have to do so many different things. Like he has to be competent, and you have to believe him as a leader. Like his character is supposed to have worked in as the chef de cuisine in Noma, which is like the best restaurant in the world, and then he has to be fucked up enough to like not go to his brother's funeral when he kills himself and like comes back to town and like is running this like corner store sandwich shop. It's fantastic. I think this show is really great. Like I said, if you guys aren't watching it, it's definitely worth checking out. And it's a small commitment. It's like eight half-hour episodes. Some of you are watching Westworld, which is like not worth your fucking time.
We gotta
do better
stop.
things with your time.
Let's not insult our listeners, Che. All right.
If you're watching Westworld,
Che, come on, man.
I mean, I'm still watching it, but goddamn, Corey, have you watched this season yet?
No, I honestly keep forgetting it exists, and I'm not super duper upset about that. Alrighty then. I think we should start like breaking into our actual show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first up we have today. We're doing the whole basic thing and picking a Batman comic.
You say basically, but we really don't talk about the like major run comic books very often at all. I don't. Well, I think it might be mostly because I don't read them because I don't. It's not like the thing I like about comic books. But this first issue is interesting to say the least. Corey, did you think it was good? Let me ask you that first.
Getting into it initially, yes, I thought it was good. I've been I think he has a lot of the same energy that I think he's had on. So the book itself, it's Batman number 125. It's always confusing with new runs, basically, but Chip Zdarsky, who we were just talking about, who did an incredible, like, he's been one of those breakout stars of the last few years. Everything he writes pretty much amazing. His Daredevil run right now is so fucking good, and like he's become one of my favorite authors.
Yeah.
I had a lot of I kind of fell out of love with Batman over the last couple of years. And I've kind of talked about this on this podcast about I'm not a big fan of how Tom King wrote his Batman run, and it made me kind of fall out of love with it, even though I read all 100 issues. So what does that say about me? But I think after that run,
like those people still watching Westworld.
But after that run, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a big old break from Batman. But so when I heard like, it's one of I was waiting for a big name to be drawn to it, and I was really surprised that Chip is allowed to do both. He's still doing Daredevil. And he's gonna be doing this. So I wanted to at least give this a chance, and I picked this before I actually got a chance to read it, so didn't really come in here with a specific direction, but to kind of have some background of where Batman currently is as a story in general.
He's poor now.
He's poor now. That's one thing. He's poor now because of reasons. I really wish there was a better reason, but it's just
how much of the reason do you think is because people were sick of like Batman, his like power is like prosperity and like
I think it was partially I think it's a lot to do with a lot of bad editorial mandates made by Dan Didio before he went out. I don't want to put that on Tom King. It felt like a very weird direction to leave it in. So Batman's poor, Alfred's dead for the time being. I'm sure he'll be back.
Yeah, of course.
And Batman and Catwoman are once again on a break. Because Batman can't be happy.
On a break. I mean, she's like with some other guy in the beginning of this issue, and the way the pages are, like you open the page and before you start reading everything, once you start reading the pages, it becomes very clear, obviously, what's going on. But I remember opening the page and I was like, oh, Batman and Selena waking up next to each other, and that's. I think that's not what's happening.
I think that's very intentional. Though.
Yeah, of course. But who is this fucking man? Valmont? What a name!
I'm not really reading Catwoman right now, but apparently, of course, the internet's like, this is weird. And I think honestly, that might be my only like weird thing to kind of do in a general thing. But I guess it's kind of just to show, as always, Batman can't really be in a good place in his life.
Well, we also get like a whole ass Catwoman issue at the end of this book too, which
I actually did enjoy that.
I think Catwoman issues. I like the Catwoman issue better than the Batman one, not to be honest.
And I gotta say, I think like Chip is a very good author because he can do both humor and very serious. But yeah, basically, I think it's just as one does with your general Batman stories, a bunch of him punching people, kind of getting a new status quo with the fact that he's poor.
Although, to be honest, besides him saying "I'm poor now," nothing is different. He even goes to a fucking gala in this issue.
Well, Che, look at it this way: there's a difference between Bruce Wayne being poor, and you and I being poor.
Yes, of course. But it is just really funny. I remember thinking like, okay, so what's going to be different? Like, is he not going to have a Batmobile? No, he has a Batmobile. Is he not going to have like all the gadgets? No, he has all the gadgets.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, listen, you gave me Batman, you made him poor, so I'm gonna try not to ignore it entirely, but I'm gonna ignore you a bit because who wants to? I mean, I would not. If someone gave me the keys to Batman and he's poor, I'd be kind of pissed off.
Well, the whole point, we were talking about this before the podcast, but the whole point of this character is the thing that I find really interesting. I think the thing that most writers find really interesting, and especially in films, is that he has to exist in these two completely diametrically opposed worlds of like the high society life in Gotham, but it's New York, and also in the underbelly criminal world of New York. And he has to like go back and forth. It's just really funny. Like even in this book, he's like walking into this gala with this woman who I don't actually think speaks in the issue, which is another comic book trope that I cannot get enough of. I love it.
Well, part of me, this is I hate fucking being on the other side of things. This is one of those. I think it's one of those things, at least with that kind of character, or just not having a character at all. It's just kind of more indicative on Bruce Wayne as a character, where he's just more the reason she doesn't talk is because like there's no interaction there. It's just kind of not great. I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying I think that's.
But it seems a perfect opportunity to like nod your head at what the what is different now is that these like non-human women that have surrounded Bruce Wayne's character for the last 100 years wouldn't want to hang out with him anymore because he's a broke boy. Like, but instead, she's still here with no personality and no pants on. And then they go to the party
all right, let's put this guy's kind of rich right now, at least rich enough to still do Batman things. He looks like Bruce Wayne, so I think he'll be fine.
He is fucking jacked. I do love the panel of him in the bat mask with the same clothes he had on. That's crazy.
It's insane, but it's so to me it's
hilarious.
Fun. It's really fun. It's a lot of fun to me. Like no one notices the one guy just walking forward. And
I honestly wish they had just gone the full way and done like a costume change page and just done like 9 panels of him getting dressed in the crowd of people, because that's what has to have happened. He's walking to the people, he's in a suit, in a tux, and then next page he's Batman.
I gotta say though, I think they had to do that for the reasons of when Robin gets shot. I think that's one of those, like, you had to go backwards and be like, we have to have a way, because Robin doesn't have, he doesn't have Alfred anymore to do surgeries, which is kind of a big part of it. And I think, without going more into it, I think, today, sorry guys, with this Batman, it seems instead of doing the whole, like, angry Batman vibe that he kind of has seemed to have had for the last couple of years, it's kind of more going into, he's just, like, straight up depressed now.
Yeah.
Which I think, God fucking damn, Daredevil was a very good way to explore this, where it's a different direction, where Daredevil was way too angry, then he had to kind of find a way to come back off of it.
Yeah.
Where I could see Chip trying to explore kind of mental health in a different facet using this character.
Well, that's certainly how it seemed, especially with that conversation with Selina to open the book, is he's clearly struggling with some things. And, of course, we get the after Robin is... not killed, right?
No, he's fine.
He seems to be fine, although he's shot through the neck from the back, which is where your spine is. But okay,
they say it said it nicked an artery.
No, how?
I don't know.
Okay, just have him get shot like in
comic books,
the abdomen or whatever. Yeah, I also I would love to talk about the ending of this book and what seems like the setup for the arc of this story, because I'm not sure I buy the premise. I think it's a cool idea. I think the setup is not effective. Would anyone believe Batman killed the Penguin?
I mean, it's happened before. Like, I think it's going to definitely be, no one's going to actually believe it. I mean, like, of course, Commissioner Gordon won't believe it. Honestly, guys, I don't know.
Interesting we don't see Commissioner Gordon in this
He
issue.
might not be a thing right now. So
Yeah.
he might not be a thing. It's actually, but it seems to be very much Batman being at the end of his rope. I just love the really quick, like, though I know you're not really a big fan of thought boxes.
I think they, when done well, they can be effective. I think the interior dialogue in this book is a part of us, is a symptom of the thing I think is not necessarily working so much for me with this first issue, is that it's very, very crowded, and that feels like a editorial decision, that you have to get a lot done in this small issue. There's a lot of exposition, and there's a lot of like, Bruce Wayne telling us what he's thinking, which I don't know if it's necessary, but
that's very Batman though. It's like,
yes.
He's the originator of that whole thing. I just like saying, I like the whole, like, at the very end when Oracle Barbara Gordon's talking to him, and the whole, he's like, I'm fine, I'm not. I think it just works very well, and
it also hints at what is clearly going to be going on with this version of Bruce Wayne.
I would love this. I think, in kind of like reflecting back to like Mark Waid a bit in his Daredevil run, where a lot of the book kind of is a very happy-go-lucky Daredevil, but at a certain point, it just kind of shifts to be like, no, I'm actually depressed.
Yeah.
And it takes a very different turn there. And I would love for somebody to finally do a Batman run where at least he tries to work on his mental health a little bit. I mean, it's only taken I don't
we
know.
had
if
that
this
Batman
is
book where he was being like blackmailed into therapy.
Okay, that book was insane though.
And also, that's not how therapy works.
No, not at all. Was that a good book?
No,
right?
I think it was
bad.
It wasn't bad. I think it was like a lot of cool ideas strung together with not really great writing. Is what I think
that's
there.
Okay. That's fair. I think that's a very fair way to look at it. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited to see how this first arc goes. First issues are always hard to do.
Yes,
but I'm
especially when you're being like handed something that it's not your creation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's much different than a number one, which we're going to talk about, a Chip Zdarsky number one in a second, which I think he clearly had a much clearer vision of, and that's a lot of that is because he has full control over what's going on.
But I will say, I do think like he does a really good job of like, I mean, Daredevil kind of gave him. He was also in a really weird spot with Daredevil where I think Daredevil is such a bad place. He accidentally commits manslaughter, and he deals with that very well. So
yeah.
I mean, I have faith in Chip. He's not like let me down yet, and I'm excited to see where this first arc goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on, would be remiss if we didn't mention Jorge Jimenez's amazing art, who's fantastic in this. But I also need to have an episode of, or an installment of, Cory Explains Thing. What's going on in these last 2 pages, Cory? you got an answer for me? Because it just sort of seems to happen and then it's the end. Who is this robot man? Is this the future?
No, I think it's now.
Right, but sorry, was the other 98% of this book in the past?
I'm just...
Because we get to the Batcave again, and it's like covered in cobwebs, which is not how it was 10 pages earlier when Bruce was sitting in it.
That's not. I don't think he's in there. I don't think he's in the Batcave.
Oh, okay.
It seemed like he was like in a warehouse or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess we never see this exact shot of like this weird Joker poster and a bunch of helmets and everything.
So here's my theory.
Yeah.
Batman is so paranoid that if he ever crossed the line, he would have a failsafe to stop him, basically. And what I'm assuming is maybe, I don't know how it works necessarily, but maybe Batman killing the Penguin somehow triggered that. That's my theory.
That's honestly an incredible theory. It makes a lot of sense. The next issue is called The Good Soldiers, which does sort of suggest there's more of these robot things coming for somebody.
More robot things and probably more Robins to be included.
Yeah, and obviously the name Failsafe suggests that it's the failsafe for somebody, and Batman makes the most sense. What an incredibly stupid idea, though,
to do that.
But like, if it could be triggered by just like the news accusing you of killing somebody, I mean, I guess how else would you do it? Because how could you control?
Exactly.
You wouldn't then set it off if you were out of control. Yeah, it's a very interesting way to end the last two, because I was like, do I need to go back and read 124 issues of Batman to understand what the fuck this thing is?
I don't believe you do.
Okay, good.
I hope not.
Yeah. No, that actually makes that, I buy that a lot. I mean, I assumed it was like a failsafe for somebody, but I didn't think it being a failsafe for Batman himself makes perfect sense. It's the exact same psycho shit that he would do because he wants to die. as we've covered ad nauseum on this podcast, he wants to die.
It's a very good point. Everyone gets so mad, like, why would you have a failsafe for all of the Justice League? I'm like, I have a fucking failsafe for myself. I'm fucking crazy.
Right.
What do you guys expect at this point?
Yeah. But I think we will check back in with this Zdarsky run, because
I definitely will be. I definitely will be keeping an eye out and reading it. And I'll let you know, Che, if you're missing out on it. I will definitely let you know.
All right. Next up, another Chip Zdarsky book. We have new Image book, art and script by Zdarsky himself, and it is called Public Domain, which is a ironic name. I don't really I mean, I guess yes, but it seems like nobody in the book is in on the joke. I will say up front, I really loved this first issue. I think I was quite invested in these three characters, the two sons and the father, and then the ending I think is great, where it seems like the book is going to change what it's about pretty drastically going forward. What did you think of this book, Cory?
I liked it a lot. I wasn't entirely sure what the tone was going to be. I mean, we were just talking about with Batman, but when I usually see Chip Zdarsky as like a kind of solo thing, I kind of always assume it would be a bit tongue-in-cheek. I don't even actually know why I think that, because everything that
not much comedy in this issue at all, really.
I mean, until the brother shows up.
Although even the brother is like, he's like a sad clown.
Yeah, he's a sad clown. It's like definitely like, oh, this is not this guy's not doing awesome.
Right.
But I like this book a lot, as someone who's a big fan of and someone who likes. I mean, I work in entertainment, so I clearly have some kind of I definitely do like this industry a bit. Finding a story where like an artist definitely gets screwed over, and this entire concept to me is very interesting.
Yeah.
Especially with kind of the frustration it must be built upon following the two sons and the father itself. I definitely can see how this is going to go into a familiar like family oriented book in the future. Yeah. But yeah,
so we're definitely going to get because the conflict in this first issue is like familial drama, where we have a father who is like seems almost too happy with the lot he's been given in life, and like his family is just so miserable for him that they won't even celebrate this premiere of, I think, like many movies into the series, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking with Jay a bit beforehand. My theory is this is based off of a bit of Bob Kane and Bill Finger, who so Bob Kane was like the writer of Batman originally, and Bill Finger was the artist.
Yeah.
But basically what the story has come out in recent years is Bill Finger basically did 75 to potentially more percent of the work, and he was never credited as throughout his living life. Yeah. It wasn't until 2015 where he was officially put on to both comics and films as like a co-credit for it. And I think
that's very clearly the motivation, because we, especially at that red carpet scene, where we see, which is laughable if anybody's ever watched the red carpet reveal for a Marvel movie. They don't cart out a bunch of comic book writers, but we have the writer like buddying up with the stars, and then our main character, who is the artist, the father, standing in the back having to take a selfie with one of the assistants. Like, I almost positive this is, if not entirely borrowed from the Bob Kane Bill Finger story, then heavily influenced by it, including the ending of this book where we find out that he owns the artist owns the rights to the domain. Which, do you think it's an intentionally terrible name for a superhero?
What was the name? What was the name again?
Just the domain. It's
terrible. I mean, I think this is a sense of humor to be like, yep, this is what we're gonna name it. That is a very bad name, though.
Well, I love the one clip we see of the movie they're watching at the premiere is horrible. He literally, hold on, let me find the page so I can read this insane quote that he says. Dark Mask is still in the Hella base. Sandy, I can't stay and kiss you, even though I want to. I know, Domain. It's why I love you, damn it. It's why America loves you. It's very intentionally terrible writing.
Horrible.
Which, yeah. And that scene is great because it's like the writer is dead asleep, hates this, doesn't care about any of this shit. We've already seen him before previously in the book to see that he's an asshole, and we find out again on the next page that he's still an asshole. But in the back is just the dad having a grand old time watching this terrible movie.
He seems too wholesome, I think. And I guess it's kind of, I'm thinking about the whole Jack Kirby quote about like comics will just break your heart, basically. Mm-hmm. It may be maybe the angle that Chip is gonna go with this is kind of the whole like maybe you just do it for the love of it.
Yeah. It seems like that's at least how the dad feels. Because, again, like his entire family is sort of checked out on this world that he's been sort of like half invited into. They won't go to the premiere with him. They don't really hate the movies. He seems to love the movies. He's all invested in this. And even his wife is like not going to the premiere with him. And he is very happy to do all this stuff, even though he has been completely mistreated and forgotten by this industry. It is we were talking about this before. Like, there's not. The timing is incredibly interesting that this was released. I think 2 weeks before this Chip Zdarsky Batman run starts. So that's fascinating. And two, a lot of vitriol for a world that I don't think Zdarsky's ever been a part of. None of his books have been adapted into movies or TV shows yet.
I'm sure that's coming soon.
Is it though? Like, what would you adapt?
Stillwater.
Stillwater would be an interesting show. I don't know if there's a big market for Image books after how bad.
What are you talking about, Jay? I'm not terrified at all of Paper Girls coming to Amazon later this month.
Just don't think it's gonna go well. I'm sorry, Cory. I only wish the best for you. I hope it's fantastic, but I'm gonna
be hurt, and I know I'm gonna be hurt because as soon as I heard the Stranger Things like synthwave, I'm like, no, I know, it was first, but I know what's happening.
I really liked that first season of Why the Last Man, but I think there is a bad taste in producers' mouths after how poorly that went with independent comics.
That wasn't their fault, though.
No, but it's hard not to be like this. They got canceled because it wasn't popular enough. Obviously, it was more popular than a lot of shows that remain on air because there's other terrible things that happen with the production and like having.
What about like Walking Dead though and stuff like that?
Yes, but Walking Dead is an anomaly more than. It's also. Doesn't everyone hate The Walking Dead now? Even though there's like 3 spinoffs. Or
whatever? I think people kind of got. But Invincible.
Yeah. I think there is.
Shit, if you're written by Robert Kirkman, basically, I think that's a fucking rule.
Right, and there's a big difference between animated and live action. I would love to see a Stillwater show. I think Stillwater is ripe for.
I think that would make a very solid like Netflix show, honestly.
Yeah, and especially because I think those two, the two main characters, the mother and the son, could have such a very interesting dynamic between the two actors. I just think that
Kick-Ass.
Going off on a tangent. I think there's
Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia would be a very good one.
You're just listing Image books that would be good adaptations now?
I'm just like literally my screen is a slow crawl of Image books as I'm scanning back and forth.
Philadelphia would be pretty wild, actually.
I think that would be a pretty fun show.
There was that Cinemax show, Outcast, right? That was the adaptation of the.
Oh yeah. I never read that. Honestly, I didn't really get into horror comics until relatively recently. Mm-hmm. Great genre, though.
Yeah.
Great genre.
Mostly written by James Tynion at the moment.
James Tinney.
If you're reading a horror comic book you like, it's like 95% chance it's written by Tim Gunn himself.
I thought Backstagers, when I was reading it, was a very like nice and wholesome comic about a bunch of gay kids doing theater, and then the end of it, it was fucking horror. I'm like, what were you? The art was so cartoony. Like, what the fuck happened?
I have a feeling that is how Public Domain is going to go, though. I have a feeling that there's going to be a
monster. Oh, sorry, I was thinking
not exactly, not some, but I think there's going to be some deaths when it comes. I mean, we're talking about people's $1 million, $billion properties being threatened by like a guy who's driving around in a butcher van. I think this is not going to end well for a lot of people, and I think that's why I'm really most fascinated by.
I'm genuinely wondering if it's just going to be like a courtroom drama after a certain point.
Courtroom drama does not work in comics. I really hope not.
Well, but it only works in one book, and that book involves a man dressing in red leather and beating people up. Oh, and She-Hulk.
But is there any like actual courtroom shit in Daredevil? Like, he's a lawyer.
There's a lot of courtroom shit in Daredevil.
But it's not like
Dude, I got it. Well, yeah, that would be very funny if Atticus Finch just put on a fucking costume.
Imagine a fucking.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have to forget about the last 3 minutes of what we just said. This is a new Che. I am calling Netflix.
I don't think Netflix is gonna take your call. I'm sorry.
We don't have to change the name. To Kill a Mockingbird already sounds like something. We don't have to change the name.
Daredevil: To Kill a Mockingbird. That's what
yes. No, I was going to say To Kill a Mockingbird. Honestly.
Oh man. Do you have anything else you want to say about Public Domain before we take a quick break?
No, I think I'm okay. I think I wore out my stupidity.
Yeah, I think these two books, if you're looking for two very interesting books to read back to back this week, I think the duality of these two explorations of the comic book industry are very interesting to me. I mean, I know to us, we're kind of the target audience for this. I also, I as somebody who really loves comic book movies and thinks comic book fans who are like, well, comic books are just like a more prestigious art form. It's like, it's not. They're all like equally silly, ridiculous. None of you are writing the fucking Iliad. Relax. I love them, but let's be realistic.
I'm hard to disagree with you. I think it's a fantastic art form, and Che can go fuck
I love comic movies. I love comic books, but to be like comic books are the true art form, and movies have ruined them.
That's what you mean by
that's
fucking stupid now.
Yeah.
Comic book. We wouldn't have comic books till if the movie industry did not decide to do that.
Right. It's like let's not pretend like Marvel and DC would still even really be around if it wasn't for the movie and TV industry.
And honestly, like looking at it now, I'm like, what are you really like parodying? I mean, like I get like some of the DC movies are like hard bad, but like Marvel movies, I'm not saying they're fucking Oscars. Like I'm not saying they're fucking Oscars. I'm saying like they at least aren't like. What I was trying to figure out, like what is this bad? It seems like it's a very different.
I think there is a tone among people who dislike comic movies where the hatred of them is not about the quality and more about the omnipresent nature of them, which I respect. Like, I love movies in general. I would love more if the movie industry was less dominated by comic movies, absolutely, despite the fact that I love them a lot. But that doesn't change the fact that the reason the movie industry is dominated by comic book movies is because that's the thing that people go and spend money to go see. And it doesn't really have, like, they're not going to make, like, sorry, they're not going to make To Kill a Mockingbird again because there's just not a demand for it. So, not the old
sorry,
version. If you make Daredevil To Kill a Mockingbird, yes, people will then go see that. I'll never get over.
I literally think I'm onto something right now, and you keep laughing at me.
Abraham
Lincoln Vampire Hunter exists. I can get To Kill a Mockingbird to exist. It can work.
For so many reasons, it's not a good idea. But you know what? I only wish the best for you. How about we take a quick break? You can sketch up your idea for Daredevil To Kill a Mockingbird, and then we can come back and talk about some more comic books. Sounds good.
Yeah.
You want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker and a fiend. And one night, he goes off crazier than usual. Mommy gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit. So, me watching, he takes the knife to her, laughing while he does it. He turns to me and he says, "Why so serious?" He comes at me with the knife. "Why so serious?" He sticks the blade in my mouth. "Let's put a smile on that face."
And we're back.
So,
All right. We're talking about volume 1+1 of What's the Furthest Place From Here? I want to say dark comedy book by Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss.
I think that's a good way to describe it.
Art just by Tyler Boss, but story is by Boss and Rosenberg together. This book has been one of my favorites for a while. Cory, you just caught up with the release of the trade.
Yes, I did. I did not. I was not reading issue to issue. And honestly, I probably, unless you want to talk about it some more, I probably will hold off for another trade because sitting down and reading that front to back was a fantastic.
There's plenty of comic books. We can find other stuff to talk about. I'm sure of it.
Hey, listen, if the book deserves to be talked about, I will read the fucking book.
I will. I'm. So issue 7 is the first after the first volume, and it is a sort of like a, what's the word? Like an interlude. It's like a side story. We get a prequel. I'll be interested to see what it looks like when we get back to the main storyline with the kids, because of course the 6th issue, and also I should say this right now, if you have not read What's the Furthest Place From Here and you're thinking about reading it, you're not all cut up, please go ahead, jump ahead. We're going to talk about Stranger Things to close the episode. But we're going to be spoiling this, and this is not a book you want spoiled for you. I'd be pretty happy to say that. So, go ahead and jump ahead. And
go buy this book. Just go buy the first volume. It is a fantastic read.
Even though Tyler Boss ghosted us and won't come on the podcast,
I'm going to go to my comic book shop, man. I will run into that motherfucker one day.
I would love to talk to him about this, because I think this book is doing a lot of really interesting and very strange things that I love a lot. The tone is like keeps throwing me for a loop, because stuff will happen that is incredibly dark and incredibly violent. I think it's issue 5 where a kid just drowns to death on the page, and we don't dwell on it at all as the reader, as the kids in the story. The story, it literally it goes from kid dies to cut to black next chapter. There is basically nothing happening in between these two thoughts.
That's right at the carnival.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he dies in the fucking dunk tank.
It
cuts to the next scene, and then that's it. It's never talked about again.
I do think that's the point, though, because I think it's just like this is how.
No, it's very intentional.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, like, I think in a sense, even tone wise, the book seems serious, but I guess our main characters are just so desensitized to everything.
Yeah. That
this is kind of just how it comes across to them. Like murder and dying and all that shit like that is very just like quick. And I mean, even when the first issue happens and she shoots the one of the pig guys, everyone's just like, well, that guy got shot. And it's more about like the ramifications of it rather than she just fucking killed a guy.
Well, this book is, I mean, like I said, this book is incredibly violent. We see, I mean, I can't even count how many kids we see die. In the 6th issue, the final issue of this volume,
So much child death.
A child is literally launched into the fucking atmosphere with a carnival cannon to his death.
Yeah, that was
because he trespassed. That's literally why he's killed, because he trespassed, or because he's accused of trespassing. I think that's why I like the 7th issue so much, because it is this shift in tone back to a point at which this comfortability with violence and the macabre is not there yet. So these kids are afraid, and the Boss's art is entirely different in that book, and I think that's really intentional too. It lends this tone of like gravity and severity to the book that is not intentionally not in the first issue, which is like very bright and cartoonish even when these terrible things are happening. And as we watch these kids get pulled away from their father for still unknown reasons.
Yeah.
We could do a little bit of like theory crafting here, but I have very little idea as to what was going on. I had some ideas before this 7th issue, but it sort of threw those into the blender, honestly.
I think honestly I might be right there with you, man.
I think when we find out their father is still alive is when I was the most confused. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Me too.
But let's talk about the first volume a little bit first. So what did you like about this first volume in particular?
As people, I was talking to a bartender when I was reading it, because I do that. I was like,
Quickland's fucking weird, man.
and she was asked like, "What's the book about?" Basically,
what is the book about? That's a good question.
I was trying to think of what the best way to describe it. I was like, basically, it's if there was a post-apocalyptic version of the Warriors, but with monsters.
Yeah. Or maybe not monsters.
Maybe not monsters. It's very, very fucking unclear at this point. Yeah. I am genuinely unsure about what happens. But yeah, it's like, yeah, basically it's just like they're going on a journey to find their friend, basically. And
there's like the
also
world
because
created is so fascinating. Like it's the Warriors, like you said. There's these gangs of roving kids, but literally they're kids.
Yeah, literally. I don't think you could be older than
18. You disappear somewhere. And they all know that for a fact, but it's not like nobody said where you go. I thought, so I guess we'll tip my had a little bit hand a little bit here and like address what I thought was going on. My theory before issue 7 is that there was like some disease that was very contagious to kids, but not to adults, or vice versa. And you had to like quarantine them away from each other. So they created this world that adults like couldn't go into unless they were covered in like a, hazardous material, which is what the, is like a exaggerated version of what the what are the outsiders, what they're called? Others. What are the giant women in black called?
Did they actually give them a name?
They're called something because they keep saying that we killed I think it's outsider. But
yeah, I think an outsider. I think it's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, that could be like a cartoonish version of what like a hazmat suit or something would look like in the eyes of a child. And then of course, like I said, all of this stuff is negated in the 7th issue where we see there's like some war that's going on or something like that makes them evacuate the city. We find out even before the kids are sent to this town that there was this partition between the city and the outskirts, where in the outskirts there are like mole people living that steal and try to eat. They're like cannibals.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this world, and Boss and Rosenberg are we talked about one of their books before on a book club podcast, 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. They are very good at building a very rich world. And Tyler Boss's book from last year, my favorite book from last year, Dead Dog's Bite, the thing I loved most about that book is this rich town he built around this story that was, aside from the incredible setting, is like a pretty boilerplate like kids mystery thing, the kids mystery story. And the reason it's like brought to life and is so rich is because all these characters in this world he's created are so just rich and complex. Yeah. And they've done it again. Like this book is, I have so many questions and yet no answers, and I'm still incredibly invested. Like, what the fuck was going on with the old people? Old people.
I think that's just more fucked up in general. I really didn't have much more about like, they just kind of seemed a bit insane.
And so are those 2 dead now? The 2 ones that get captured by them?
No, it seemed like they were being converted to be one of the old people because they took out their teeth and the kids were wearing dentures, which is so horrifying.
Fucked up. I mean, we're going to see. So next issue, there's a teaser of the cover, issue 8. We are going to see the like sex cult kids, which let me be very clear, I am not excited for. That sounds horrifying.
We don't know that for sure. We just know that they happen to live out of a sex shop.
Did you see the drafting, like their costumes when they were drafting the kids? One of them is holding a vibrator and the other one has a dildo hat on.
Where, what? Maybe it's not in my digital copy. I don't think.
This is the end of, let me find an actual page. At the end of issue 6 where they're drafting.
Oh man, no, my issue 6 is in my living room.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's when the punishment for like basically breaking all the
that sounds fantastic.
so there's the oh my god, what are they called? Not the academy. What are they called? The
I thought they went to the academy. I can't remember.
I'm blanking on their name, but whatever their house was originally called is broken up because they broke curfew and shot a pig guy and it did a bunch of stuff. So they're all being drafted by these like caricatures of of characters. There's like a fireman house, which is hilarious to me. There's of course the jock house, who hilariously drafts the nerd kid. We get the sex shop house that has 2 fucking gimps and then a jester with the vibrator, which is so good. I mean, again, the visual gags in this book are fantastic. I posted one on Twitter or Instagram that Cory sent that is great. I'd forgotten about it. The Something Is Kissing the Children booth is one of the best visual gags I've seen in a comic book in a long time. Tyler Boss is like a absolutely fantastic at this shit. I'm sure Rosenberg has some input on that too. Well, another one of my favorites was from earlier in I think it's like issue 4 or 5, where the dog is barking and they're being hunted, and one of the characters says like, if that thing is gonna make some noise, stuff something in its mouth, and then there's a cut back to the kids, and they've stuffed something in the mouth of the pig kid that's with them that they kidnapped instead of the dog.
It's funny. It's just funny.
And then in the next page, like a kid gets killed. Like it's just the dichotomy of the tone in this is so fantastically done, I think.
I'm wondering, and I'm assuming this must be the opening city, but Josh Hickson was credited as doing something. I'm trying to figure out what's first place. Here's a bit of the interiors.
Doing some art for this, you mean?
Yeah, this guy named Josh. Like it was I was on the credit page. It's Josh Hickson with Rosenberg.
For issue 7 in particular.
For issue 7 in particular.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that makes sense because the art is. I thought it was Tyler Boss doing the art, but okay, that makes sense that it's
a little different.
Yeah. It's a different artist entirely.
Yeah, it's like the city and stuff like that look very, very different. And I'm trying to think as soon as
that and when we come across the cannibals is a completely different style of art.
Yeah, and it seems like when they get to the it is different. When I feel like when they get to the town, it's a bit different. Yeah, you're right. I gotta look at the they're very similar styles.
We got a very similar style of like breaking up the main story with these like flashback or B plot issues with oh my god, I'm blanking on the name of it again. Department of Truth, where in between the volumes there's like 2 or 3 issues that are done by different artists before we get back to the main plot. I really like that because it just builds out this really rich world and gives you this one again like gives you so much insight to the backstory of the world, and still you kind of know nothing, which is great. That scene where they come in and they fix they like stitch up her injury, give her a shot, give her brother the pills, and then leave. So they want to take care of these kids, but they've also abandoned them somewhere. And then the end shot with the father is
So what the fuck is going on?
Confounding.
What is happening? I'm so confused. I mean, I guess we also do get that shot of them helping, well, like the child being delivered in the previous volume. So we got to assume that's also, I'm gonna call them slender people because that's all that's what they remind me of.
And our character that gets beat up in the at the end of the 6th issue, he like hops off of the car and like walks into the woods to try to find them, and they find him, and presumably we're gonna find out have helped him in a way. I think there's a lot.
And I think another part of this is very fun. It's kind of seeing like, I don't want to say like the ancestors because we don't know how many years it's been, but like kind of seeing like the little.
This could be generations.
Yeah, exactly. Like we see like a bunch of like stay away from these kids, and they're like one of them's holding a pig, and they has a briefcase, and they're dressed like old people.
Well, we see a shot of somebody already. By the time the kids in the movie theater walk out, we see them. They've already written Syndicate on the candy.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Out the weird like candy striper kids. They're called the Syndicate. So.
Yeah, and like people who are dressed like librarians and old people. Basically, it's good.
I will say it's clearly not like supposed to be realistic, but there is no universe in which this is how children would behave. Like,
No. I mean,
it's not like these kids act like grown adults. They're supposed to be all under the age of 17. They act like psychopath adults. And
the most realistic, and this is a callback for literally nobody but myself, is the beginning of Jimmy Neutron, where all the parents disappear and the kids like almost kill themselves.
the Jimmy Neutron
Movie, yeah.
Dude,
Where they all like almost just straight up die. It's like been one day and they're like, okay, we got to figure this shit out afterwards because this ain't good, basically.
I do
Don't
not
know.
know
I don't know who
Jimmy
that's
Neutron.
for, but that's just for me.
It's
I don't
for
know.
somebody.
It's for somebody.
Also, I just found the page. They're called the Strangers. Is what the
The Strangers. That's easier than Slender People.
Yeah, the black cloaked hooded people.
It's like, I'm so confused by them because they can talk, and then like one of them was like, when the kids were crying, the other one started crying too. And I'm like, what the fuck are these?
I always assumed they were humans. And
you think
like
so?
Adults. Well, that's my theory was that they were adults. I didn't know why they'd been separated because it's clear the kids have like this sort of fear of them in a way that they like are intimidating, but no, they'll never hurt them. That's why when they kill the stranger accidentally in one of the early issues, it's such like just so detrimental to them because they know that the other kids are going to like have to excommunicate them and all this stuff because they know not to mess with the strangers. But if they don't mess with the strangers, nothing happens to them. And then we find out, of course, that the strangers will come and deliver your baby and sew up your gunshot wounds and all sorts of stuff. So there's something happening here. I'm very interested to see how. I imagine there's an end in sight. I don't think this is going to be like an ongoing forever, but I don't know how much more we could get. That there's so much content to so many holes to fill. And like, let's say, what would you be happy with? What if this was 22 issues? Would you be happy?
We seem to be sweeping our volumes into sectors of 6.
Yeah.
I could see this doing 4 volumes. Or I could see 4 volumes. And I think it's like to me it's like Paper Girls. Where I'm like, I don't want it to be over, but it needs to be over.
No, I need an ending to this. Like, I need an ending to this story.
Yeah, and I hope it's not like 50 issues deep, because if anything, I want to see this team work on something new after this.
I don't know if people really do that anymore. I think that the mistake of
what you mean
thinking that your story can like run for that many issues.
Oh yeah.
Is sort of a relic of the past. It's very rare to see that.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody besides
especially not for Image, right?
Yeah, I think like Kirkman might have been my last, like the only person I could think of, and Saga, because Saga just prints out money. So
yeah, the rule when you're like the tentpole thing that the rules don't really apply to you, that's a little different. But like more and more, we're seeing, like, I'm looking at the releases, the books that are being released this week for Image. We've got one book that's a 5-issue series, an 8-issue series. We've got 2 6s, and then a couple. There's Oblivion Song, which is on volume 6 because Robert Kirkman is a psychopath or something. Have you been reading Oblivion Song at all?
I actually did. It's actually pretty good.
I only read like the first volume and then I sort of just bailed.
It's over now. It's over now though.
It's
about.
Okay.
I think this might be the last issue. Actually, it's about to come out.
When are we getting the Oblivion Song adaptation for HBO Max?
That's a good fucking question. Well, that's a trade paperback, so maybe it might be over already. Let me.
Yeah.
But
I think they're the best versions of comics are in pretty short burst story arcs, and this will be the longest thing that Rosenberg and Boss have worked on before this, because of course the Dead Dogs Bite and Four Dogs Walk into a bank.
I'd read that fucking book.
Would you? It'd be pretty short, wouldn't it?
It'd probably come after my movie of Daredevil to Kill a Mockingbird.
They're both only 1 volume long though.
You won't be laughing when I'm making the big bucks.
I still be laughing because I'll know that the people have been conned into reading To Kill a Mockingbird, but it's a comic book.
Absolutely. Apparently,
apparently
I am 2 issues away from finishing Oblivion Song, and I had no idea. I genuinely had no idea I was that close to the end of it.
Yeah, I'm not like a Robert Kirkman head. I won't pretend to be.
I like Invincible, man. truth be told, I still actually never finished Invincible.
I'm not sure I like it. I like Invincible the show. I think Invincible, and is why I stopped reading it, and I will eventually have to go back and finish it so we can talk about the show. But like, I just stopped because it got too much.
It's
I think that's Kirkman in a nutshell. It's like it's just he just doubles and triples and quadruple downs until like you're having to read scenes that you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, there's a lot of I've never seen a character drugged through the dirt as much as Invincible has.
And I can't imagine we're gonna see that on the show, are we? There's no way.
I think it seems like they're trying to do pretty 1-to-1, and like, but and also like the stuff that like happens to him in the later second half of the series, which is it's not awesome. It's genuinely not awesome.
No.
But yeah.
Anything else to say about these first 7 issues of What's the Furthest Place From Here? I think we're both in agreement. This book is incredible. Tyler, if you're listening, come on, talk about
Please.
all your work that we keep talking about.
Yes, we clearly like your stuff. I feel like I'm an ex who's just like, hey, like I know it's been a while, but you haven't like responded to my text messages. I know it's been a couple months, and it's like I'm not mad. I'm just curious.
It's mostly a meme that because he responded to one tweet once. They were like, "Come on the podcast," and they never followed up. But I would love to talk to him.
It would be very nice. Yeah, no, we honestly do not have real beef, except we do.
If we need to have real beef for him to come on the podcast, then we've got real beef. Don't worry. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I just think this book is really fascinating. Every time it comes out, I just like need to read it because I think we've got this world that's just. And it's weird because I don't really know like any of the characters. I can't distinguish them from each other. Mallory is my favorite. That's the only one whose name I know because she's crazy. But other than that, they just sort of are so intangible to the point where we were having that scene where the kids are getting drafted. Some of the kids that were getting drafted, I'm like, have I seen this person before? They've been in the book before this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm like, okay, like sure. Like I mean, truth be told, I really don't give a shit about the main girl. I like a lot of them, but for the most part, I'm mostly just concerned with our main girl.
I'm big team Mallory. I will say.
Is that her name?
No, Mallory is the not the main girl. She's the.
Oh, is she the one who was like making out with the guy and then she was just she fucking rocked. She fucking rocked. I'll always remember you. That's not my name.
And then she steals his truck and calls him Keith again. It's great.
Fucking love that.
Yeah.
Oh. Should we take a quick break, Shay, before we come back and talk about Stranger Things
for Volume 2, which
it's just the finale.
I know. Yeah, we'll be right back.
We don't know what the hell's going on because now wait, what are we doing? Oh, wait, that's right. We're on our way to rescue our children from the big bad 4th of July celebration.
You know what? If you can't handle this, then just turn around and drop me off first.
What are you gonna do? You gonna walk back to August?
I will do anything if it gets me away from you.
Children!
This interminable bickering was amusing at first, but it's getting very stale and we've still got a long drive ahead of us. So, why don't you two cut the horseshit and get to the part where you admit your sexual feelings for one another?
Whoa!
You are way off base,
Oh,
buddy.
spare me! Yes, he's a brute. I know. Probably reminds you of a bad relationship. And gosh, you'd really like a nice man to settle down with, but admit it, you're real curious to know what he's like in the sack. And you? Ha! Well, you're just a big man, baby. Who'd rather act tough than show his true feelings because the last time you opened your heart, you got hurt. Owie. And now, rather than admit these feelings, you're dancing around one another with this mind-numbing and frankly boorish mating ritual. So, please, for my sake, either quit your bickering or pull over, tear off those clothes, and get it over with already!
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, it's time to talk about the biggest show in the world, Netflix, soon to be spun off to death television phenomenon.
And no, we are not going to be theorizing what the spin-offs are going to be. That is not what we do.
I just don't care. There's probably going to be some prequels, I would imagine.
I don't fucking know. I'm just like, I really hope it doesn't. I really wonder what they're going to do because there's a very specific reason I like this show.
It's also
And
it's not a story that's like ripe for spinoff. Like there's not a lot of stuff. You would assume that at the end of season 5 they will have defeated Vecna of some sort. So it's not like there could be a bunch of spinoffs, but who knows? All right, let's talk about these last 2 episodes of season 4. We talked about the first volume on 2 episodes ago. Last episode, you can find it in the podcast archive. But we got a drop on July 1st of 2 feature film length episodes that closed out the first season. And Cory, what are your thoughts on Stranger Things Volume 4's conclusion? Yes, that's how I feel like.
Okay, there's things I liked and there's things I didn't like.
Okay. I was hoping you were going to be the positive one because I would tell you right now, I am not going to be very positive about these 2 episodes, especially the last one, which I think is bad.
I think it's one of those situations where I did like some of it, but I think some of the it's like one of those things where character decisions don't make sense, and that kind of bothers me sometimes.
What was the point of Eddie? Why introduce Eddie if he's just going to die for no reason?
It's we're getting there.
Sorry.
Sorry, guys. I'm just kind of reminding myself about this, but yeah, it feels like it was kind of treading water for a lot of situations where I didn't feel like it had to.
Well, I will say sorry, interrupt you right quick before you jump into your thoughts. This is a thing in television shows where if you in the vast expanse of TV, especially prestige TV in the last 5, 10, 15 years, the worst seasons of television shows is the second season and the penultimate season. And the penultimate season is usually worse when you get confirmation of 2 seasons at once. One of my favorite shows of all time, The Americans. The worst season of The Americans by far is the second to last season of The Americans, and they renewed it with 2. They were like, we got 2 more seasons. That's the end. Because usually what happens is that season ends up being a ton of setup for all the stories they want to conclude in the 5th season, or the final season. And at the end of season 4 of Stranger Things, it sort of feels like that's what happened, because we kind of took all of our characters and we spent not even really a season. We like had them do their own thing for a season. Then we spent 20 minutes at the end of season 4 bringing them all back together for presumably the big fight that will conclude in season 5. But I just was really hoping that these 2 episodes would justify a lot of the problems I had in the first 7 episodes.
And I gotta say though, I'm actually still pretty high on those first 7 episodes. I had a lot of fun with these first 7 episodes, and I think when Stranger Things kind of gets down to it, the thing I enjoy the most is how much fun I can have with this series.
Yeah, I still think it's like enjoyable. I think these kids are a lot of fun. It's really beautiful. I will say, don't tell any of my gay friends I said this, that Capers song is trash.
Okay, Jay, that Capers song. What the fuck, man? Like, that's kind of fucked. That's actually pretty fucked up to say, honestly.
He said it's fucked up to say.
That's pretty fucked up to say, honestly, man. But I'm right there with you. I was watching the last 2 episodes, and I was like, I'm having fun with this, man. Like, I had a good time. Like, I was like, got a pizza. I had a good night with it. And I'm a big fan of the whole, like, let's do the whole teenage playing situation, steps and all the things that happen with it. But the end of it and a lot of the things they left us with and are setting up for the next season had me be a bit confused. It's more of me just kind of asking questions more than anything else. I understand the whole, like, having 11B and hiding again. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I get it. But like,
who's she in hiding from this time?
The military, because I think they think that she did this.
There's no way they think she did this, right?
I think that's what we're supposed to assume, because of course you have the stereotypical military, this guy is a fucking idiot situation.
But that seems like a not learning lessons from this season, which I think the biggest problem with this season is there's too much shit going on.
Yeah.
Do we need the military as another villain?
No,
next season?
I don't think we even needed. I think we could have had a better way of. I think we could have taken out the military plot line entirely.
That's not the only plot line I would have deleted from this season.
I'm just saying. I think we
yes,
could.
Yes, we could have.
Because it just kind of, I feel like they wanted to have that whole like, and let's be honest, I like seeing helicopters blow up. It looks cool. Fine.
It's the best shot of this season by far.
Yeah.
And it's probably I think what happens a lot is you get backwards chaining of ideas. Is somebody probably was like, I want to blow up a helicopter.
Yeah, like you want to like.
How do we blow up a helicopter?
You want to show that 11 got her powers back, and everyone kind of wants to do their. Clearly, when you got kids getting experimented on, we've all seen fucking Akira. We know what people want to do, and I know what I want to see.
I don't know if we've all seen Akira. Honestly, I think a lot of people have seen like all
People-
the shit Akira influence.
you should- Go watch Akira. It's a fucking amazing film. It's fucking beautiful. Go watch Akira. Right? Pause the podcast. Go watch Akira. Then come back. Yeah. I'm not gonna make any more references to Akira though. So I mean, I'm not trying to waste your time. I'm just trying to give you.
Yeah, you don't have to pause the podcast. Why are you thinking about just watch Akira after the podcast?
It's cool. Jay, we already got their downloads. It doesn't matter anymore to us.
Sure, you made it an hour and some change into this podcast. So.
And I think they could take the military plot line. If anything, I think honestly, in a weird way, I imagine they kind of wanted to have a throwback to that second season, give them a home base to work out of. I gotta assume we gotta have. You're right. Penultimate seasons are hard, and
I don't know if they need to be hard. I just think it's the nature of
didn't.
writing when you have an end in sight and you like
we know
Game
what
of
they
Thrones
wanted
is
to
a
do.
terrible example because at the end it was all bad. But think of what like season 7 of Game of Thrones was. It was like the first half of a good season, and then we all thought wrongly that the second half of that good season, which was going to be season 8, was going to be really good.
Well, here's the deal, though. It seems like the creators of this actually give a shit about their project, though. So I do have.
Yeah, I'm not accusing them of being anything.
And I
like
think
that.
season 4, which I do believe has its problems. I thought overall, I actually enjoyed it a lot. I have after sitting with it for about 10 days now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like right there with you. I got a lot of issues, but 11 bullshit. And I definitely, as you're saying, working backwards, they definitely knew at the end they wanted everyone to be back in Hawkins.
They had to.
They
you can't have your final season be the same as
yeah.
this one.
They knew they wanted to do
different continents, basically.
Exactly. They wanted to do two things. They wanted everyone back in Hawkins, and they wanted the Upside Down to be a part of our world.
And they wanted to cripple Max for some reason.
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm working back there. And I do think the whole Upside Down being, I'm a big sucker when certain characters know something's bad and everyone else is like, oh, this is pretty. I can't remember where else I've seen that from. But I always do like that trope a lot.
It was clear that a lot of the people knew this is not good. This shouldn't be snowing right now.
No, like, yeah, the mom clearly knew that something was.
Wait, there's snow outside?
Yeah, like there's something kind of fucky going on right now. Also, if your fucking city splits open and then it starts snowing the next week, y'all gotta move.
I'm sorry. The number of cars leaving the city, I was like, great.
Right.
The people of Hawkins have finally woken up and they've left their shithole city that keeps eating kids alive. And then we get to the gym and there's still a bunch of niggas here. What are you doing?
I was kind of worried everyone's leaving.
You have to leave.
Because like part of me is like, I want them to be back in Hawkins just because like I want people to be back there because I like that setting. But also I'm like, there's no fucking way in hell.
No, you would never stay.
Well, like
there's
we understand why our main characters are there because they're like, we are some of the people who actually can take care of this problem. That makes sense. But like Nancy's mom and like fucking Dustin's mom.
Why would Vicky, the talkative lesbian, still be there?
It seems like she's an adult though.
I know, but why would she? That's my point. She should get on a bus and leave.
Well, she went into the fucking Upside Down chase. She doesn't make fucking good decisions.
Wait, no, Vicky didn't.
Wait, which one's Vicky? Which one's
Vicky?
Vicky? Whoa.
The one she has the crush on.
The bi-curious woman, yes. That's definitely.
Oh, so I guess she's not. Yeah, she did have a boyfriend. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, she did have a boyfriend for now. She gonna be getting it. Yeah.
Well, no, that's the whole thing. They broke up, and then they do this.
Oh,
weird,
did they break up?
GIFs. You don't remember the peanut butter GIF scene where she comes out and she's like,
"Man, Che, it was like 1 a.m. when I was watching that scene. Man, it was fucking late. I forgot.
I don't blame you. That episode's like 3 hours long, and I wanted to check out so badly. The end is bad. I think the end is.
It's too long. It's so long, and part of me enjoys it, but part of me is annoyed. Like Max, clearly at this point, maybe Dustin back and forth, the best kid out of the group. I love Lucas. Lucas had a really great arc in the season as well.
Although his Lucas is great. He's probably, I think he's probably the best actor of the original kids or the young kids. I mean, but his everybody gets their fight at the end of the season, which is that's how the structure. Everybody get at the end of the climax, you get the fight. His fight is with the fucking varsity basketball.
It was. I mean, honestly, I don't know why. I know why in that fight. I'm like, he's gonna say the N-word. I don't know what. He's gonna fucking say it. He's gonna fucking drop that hard R at some point. I was waiting for it. So at the end of the day, listen.
I don't think he's supposed to be racist. He's just crazy.
A fucking idiot. I mean, come on, dude. Come on. Hawkins, Indiana. That dude definitely says the N-word.
I think by far my least favorite part of the season is his character. I think it's entirely pointless.
It's very pointless, but I think in a sense, so I cannot blame the actor because every time he showed up on screen.
No, the actor's fine. I think he's good. I'm not blaming the performance is fine. I just think that plot line is so stupid.
I think my favorite scene of his, and the plot line is pretty stupid because I think it's mostly unnecessary. Well, it's very unnecessary. But when the scene where they're at the gun store and he's next to Nancy, I'm like, this motherfucker's it's very good at showing that he's
it's
just
very creepy,
very unhinged. But I don't know. Also, his lackey basketball player who tackles and threatens to break the arm of a 12-year-old. What the fuck was up with that, man?
Yeah.
What the fuck was it? That guy was a fucker.
I just think we've got a guy who can rip the earth in half and controls evil bats.
Well, Jay, the good thing is
travel through space and time.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need another villain. Who's
basketball
player.
They wanted another Billy. And I think the thing about the original Billy was that he was just such a psychopath that it doesn't work as well with this guy where he's just such a cookie cutter, wears a fucking polo kind of.
Well, but also Billy was the vessel for the Upside Down by the end.
Yeah.
That was the big fight at the end is Billy has this incredible confrontation with 11, which I still think is the best action sequence in this show. And because he is part of the main villain. We have maybe 10 episodes max left of this show. I just don't know if we needed to spend time with this fucking useless white boy.
How long do you think each episode's going to be?
Oh, but I'm just I'm just saying
this is going to be a 2-hour per episode last season, I bet.
They introduced all these characters and they for this season, and then of course, I mean, can we talk about the Eddie of it all now?
No, because we can talk about Eddie, but I will say that guy fucking sucks. But seeing Lucas kick his ass and then him getting split in half,
yeah.
I was just wait, that really happened really quickly. But it was just yay, he died. But no, yes, the Eddie problem in the room because Eddie was one of the best characters of this season, one of the best acted characters of the season. He was fucking fantastic, and then they kill him for literally no reason. There's literally. And
his I'm buying time is so dumb because even at the moment I'm you're buying time for nobody. Who are you buying time for? What are you talking about?
No, exactly. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Dustin went through. He could have went through. But here's the thing, though. They could have killed him much earlier.
Yeah.
They could have killed him during the guitar solo.
Why not?
They should have exactly. That would have been a really great final scene. He keeps playing the music because he's trying to distract it, and he dies.
We didn't know until. As he's dying, basically, that he had this whole thing about I didn't go back for Chrissy. Also,
they mentioned that. There's a callback. He talks to Steve about it in volume 1. That is a callback to a prior scene.
Okay. I just think that character because one, what were you gonna do to save Chrissy?
Yeah, it wasn't again. No, it's I don't know why he's even. At this point, he knows it's a fucking spooky monster that fucking
he knows it's this.
It's not his fault. Thing. Yeah. But yeah. And okay, I guess my last criticism, because I want to say this, I did enjoy the season. I think it was my favorite season since the first season. But I'm not saying that without saying there are a lot of glaring problems. I had a lot of fun with it. That 4th episode with Max leaving the Upside Down is one of my favorite sequences in any television show I've ever seen. Jay hates it because he doesn't like the song.
It's a bad.
I don't understand the reason to cripple Max because I know
so pointless.
And I think
we've already killed Eddie. What are we doing here, guys?
What are we doing? Because I think another thing about the Max being crippled is that she'll be back. She will be back. But all we're doing now is taking away her screen time or character presence for at least 3 episodes next season, while she either comes back from something or she will come back. It's just. I feel like we're just wasting time instead of just having her be a very fun character on screen.
Yeah, I think what probably happened is you have this discussion where you're there has to be stakes, and this is to bring back to Game of Thrones, a thing that I think Game of Thrones did really brilliantly, and I think really works is, and this is not the show Game of Thrones. This is all George R. R. Martin. He'll never write a book again. But the thing that's so brilliant about the first book is that Ned is a POV character. He gets his own chapters. He's like, and then he genuinely dies. A thing that you never believe could have happened. If you only watch the show, there's that scene where it cuts to the end, like cuts to black at the end of the 9th episode, and you're waiting a whole week. You're like, there's no fucking way he's actually dead. Somebody stopped him getting his head cut off. No way. Episode 10 starts, and you see that he's dead for real. And at that point, the show proved to you that nobody was safe. And that really works in the tension of the show going forward, because there's no point at which you believe. Although, in the rest of the books of Game of Thrones, in the Song of Ice and Fire, no other POV characters other than the first chapter characters ever actually die. Ned is the only POV character that ever dies. And by the end of Game of Thrones, Ned's the only actual main character that really dies, besides Robb, who in the book is not a POV character. Stranger Things doesn't have that like cachet. You never really think. There's no moment. That's why when the three, who was it? It was
Hopper?
Nancy. No. It was Nancy,
Steve,
and Maya Hawke, whose name I'm forgetting right now.
I always forget her name as well.
Robin are walking up the stairs.
That's actually kind of bad for you.
It's fine. I don't remember.
I'm
I don't
joking.
forget her name because they just don't say it enough. She's also not a very good character, but we can talk about that later. When they get like chained to the walls by the tentacles or wherever, even though they just would have died, they would have died so long before they're released that it's crazy, but you just know they're not going to die because there's no version of this show where these three characters don't make it out. And instead, so what happens at the end, we break Max's legs and arms and blind her, stick her in the hospital because there has to be some sort of.
I don't even know the reason, honestly.
I don't buy that. I've never bought the Duffer Brothers. I know listen, if there was two shows that I could choose to love, it would be this and it would be Westworld, because it seems like a ton of fun to be really into Stranger Things in Westworld.
Yeah, no,
I just don't think these guys know what they're doing.
I think they know what they're doing for a lot of it. I just don't. I think there's just.
I think this 9th episode is a.
I think they need an editor, or like they need someone else in the writing room to kind of just be like, all right, what.
Episode 4, which is your favorite of the season, is neither written nor directed by the Duffer Brothers.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me, honestly.
The Duffer Brothers, they wrote and directed episodes 1 and 2, and then 7 through 9.
I think very clearly that they're very good. I think they're good. They're good showrunners. I just don't know if they're the best at like tackling single episodes purely by themselves.
I don't know
if they are, man. I think they are. I think the trajectory
of this show, the overarching narrative of it, I don't know.
Well,
we'll see. When it's all said and done, it's hard to say without it.
And I don't think this episode. I think you hate this episode. You probably are the person I've seen dislike this season more than any other thing I've read online. Admittedly,
I think it's really pretty and really slickly made, and I think it's acted well because they lucked into a bunch of really talented young actors and then hired a bunch of really talented adult actors. I mean, it's just like it's a cheat code to put David Harbour and Winona Ryder and Brett Gelman in your TV show. That's just how
I would just honestly, that should be the spinoff.
I would watch Brett Gelman be whatever the hell he is in this show.
I need that character. That's that should be like him doing cross the country like conspiracy theory or like supernatural detective bullshit. I don't know. That's my pitch. Duffer Brothers. There you go. That's a fucking TV show. Just have him on screen as much as possible.
Yeah. But I just think that it's not just about how good this show looks, which is it absolutely does. And this is, I mean, I keep talking about Westworld mostly because I just watched the episode right before we started, episode 3 of this season. But I think the same thing happens with a show like Westworld, which is really, really, really high budget television, and thus looks a lot like other really good TV. I just don't know if it's really good TV. Now, Westworld is much worse than Stranger Things. Let me be very clear. Season 3 of Westworld is a disaster of storytelling. Stranger Things is not even close to on the same level as that. So I'm not painting them with the same brush at all. But I think there's a lot of stuff that especially happens in this season where I'm not sure they know what is like the crux of what is functioning in this story. The whole season the heart of it revolves around this story of 11 and 1 and like the history of these two characters that have been betrayed by their papa. Even is episode 8 that's called Papa, right?
Can we never say Papa ever again though?
Sorry.
Why would you want any child to call you that? That guy's a fucking psychopath.
It's such a weird line too. It's like when he's about to kill Max in the Upside Down and she goes, "Papa is dead." And it stops him in his tracks. I don't think it would. It doesn't have the punch that I think.
She calls him Brenner though. Like, why didn't you say Brenner? Like, just you've already like.
Well, I think she was trying to like get in.
Yeah, I get
his
that.
Skin or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, I don't know. I would, again, this could all change. This is how I felt about the end of Volume 1. I was pretty lukewarm on it, and I was like, maybe these last 2 episodes will really tie everything together in a way that I think is really effective. Because a story is only as good as its ending. I say that as somebody who still really loves the first 6 seasons of Game of Thrones. But season 5
that's a very different thing though.
Yeah.
That's
season 5 of Stranger Things could completely change my mind on this show. I
hope it does because I hope it does because I'm genuinely looking forward to the next season. I'll
watch it. I'm
looking forward to it though. I think this is the first time I didn't even start watching this season. Like I remember the second and third season I was watching and binging all of them like immediately.
Yeah.
But this season I was kind of like, man, like I'm going to watch it. But I'm not really in a rush to watch it. And I really, really enjoyed Volume 1. I just think Volume 2 did not need to be as long as it was. And I don't think they made it too fat. And I think
don't even know if the length is the problem. I just think
I think the editing. I think it's just like it's just like there's a lot of it just like why is this so long? Like we keep like why are we making
episode 9 is like you said a tire fire of editing. It's like it's all over the place nonstop for nearly 2 hours of that episode. Mm-hmm. And then everything happens in the last 30 minutes. It's like, wait, what the fuck did I just watch the rest of this movie for?
And it's like, honestly, I've been living with this definitely racist white boy for the entire of the season, and he dies in the span of like 2 seconds. Like I'm like,
because he was a non-character. They knew he was a non-character in this show. And
like part of me was like, yes, I like it when things just happen, and I'm like, oh shit, like when Cedric Diggory died, and it's like fucking 5 seconds of like. Yeah. It's like he's dead within 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. But like this one, like,
but then you get to watch.
I wanted him to
live with that. For,
yes,
4 more books.
No one gives a shit. No one's gonna give a fuck about this dude being dead.
His name will never get mentioned again. He's not a character. Unlike, I mean, that's the other thing is I think you're right. Is they wanted another Billy. But unlike with Billy, I think that the Billy 1, we have that incredible fight sequence that I think, like I said, is the best this show has had action-wise. And then we get to see Max have to live with the consequences of what happened.
Yeah. Also, Billy is such a fucking wild card of a character that is like, he's fucking terrifying and asshole, but sometimes he's like genuinely enjoyable with his dickishness.
Yeah, on the beginning of his storyline is hilarious where he's just like seducing all the moms.
Yeah, it's just
it's ridiculous.
That's funny. It's just such a funny thing that he's doing, and it's just like it's like the character's silly. Like I mean, even when they made him like the invasion of the body snatched him, like it wasn't. It was like okay, he's actually gonna be like the whole thing, but yeah. Shout out to my man, Red Power Ranger. I'm so sorry that we're not gonna get a sequel.
Doc Ray Montgomery, I think so.
His name. I liked him. He's a good actor.
He's a good actor. He's also once again another non-American just added to the very American story. Yeah, he's Australian as fuck, dog.
Jeez, actually, you know what? That doesn't surprise me. He does look pretty Australian.
Well, I mean, your boy Eddie is English, right?
I'm not surprised by that.
He was in Game of Thrones. It's a very minor role, but he was in Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that makes sense. He's English. He's an actor. Of course, he was in Game of Thrones at some point.
Joseph Quinn. Well, listen, they even had non-actors. Fucking
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran.
One of the most insane. I think I told you a story where like Mike and my roommate and I were watching And I was like, so they were playing music for us. I was like, oh, they got Ed Sheeran for this, and it's just him on screen.
Ed Sheeran, yeah.
I had to leave my apartment. I had to leave my fucking apartment.
Yeah, I think the cameo culture has gotten a little bit out of hand. Was like Matt Damon a stormtrooper in the Star Wars movie or something?
No, you want Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig, there you go.
We cannot talk shit though, because in Thor Ragnarok we unnecessarily have.
No. I don't. I'm not saying. I did say out of hand, but out of hand in like a good way. I think it's like.
I think the best thing about Matt Damon is he can just keep on doing that though. Yeah. He's the only actor though that I'm accepting that he can just pop up randomly. He was in that one random movie.
Guy, I believe is like a real person.
Yeah, that's true. In like the one random movie we watched last year with Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro, and he was just in that, like, and I had no idea he was going to be in it. Like,
although that movie, there's like a bunch of kind of big deal actors that have like one scene. You're talking about.
He's in a lot of this. He's like in a lot of the third act.
He's in the entire negotiation.
But like Interstellar too. I was just like, okay, that's sure. that makes sense that Matt Damon's in space somewhere. Like he's always just somewhere in space.
Yeah. He's about to have a cameo in this fucking next Christopher Nolan.
I didn't know that. Oh, Christopher Nolan movie.
No. He's just credited as like a very minor character in Oppenheimer.
I think everybody's in Oppenheimer. I think fucking Josh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Josh Peck is amazing.
3 seconds.
If you are white,
time.
you are in Oppenheimer. I'm pretty positive.
That's a Christopher Nolan movie for you. White.
Yeah. Thank God Wes Anderson gave fucking Jeffrey Wright a role. All right, guys, let's get out of here.
Nothing else to say about Stranger Things 4. I know, man, I've been down. Listen,
guys, audience, I'm genuinely so hungry I could kill somebody.
All right. Well, we'll be back again next week. Like I said at the beginning, is Monsters by Barry Windsor Smith. Do not forget to read that. If you are watching the YouTube video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Really helps us out. If you're not watching the YouTube video, go check out the YouTube channel in the description below. You can also find us at nexttimeon.net and at nexttimeonpod on Twitter and Instagram. And thank you all for listening. Cory, anything else for the people?
Nope.
Well, I've been Che.
I've been Cory.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.